So, today we're jumping right into the book of Acts to figure out how a small and, let's be honest, pretty controversial movement managed to survive and even thrive when it seemed like everything was stacked against it. We're going to break down the incredible challenges they faced and the strategies that helped shape the early Christian church.
And really, this is the core question, isn't it? I mean, think about it. How does any idea take hold when it's met with everything from public ridicule to outright execution? The story of the early church is just a fascinating look at exactly that.
You know what's so interesting is that the book of Acts frames this entire story in a very specific way. Despite all the chaos and conflict we're about to get into, the narrative isn't about if they'll succeed, but how. It's presented as this unstoppable, inevitable force. And right away, the book makes one thing crystal clear. Just as Jesus faced intense opposition, his followers were walking right into that same storm. Their journey and the message they carried was going to be defined by conflict from the very beginning. Okay, so let's dive into the first massive hurdle, the relentless pressure from the outside. And we're not just talking about a few disapproving looks here. This was active, official, and often violent opposition from both Jewish and Roman authorities. And things escalated so quickly. It starts with mockery on the day of Pentecost, but then it gets serious, fast. Suddenly there are arrests, beatings, and threats from the highest religious council. And then it leads to the execution of leaders like Stephen and the Apostle James, which kicks off these huge waves of persecution. The stakes just could not have been higher. So when leaders like the Apostle Paul were put on trial, they were hit with some very specific charges. Things like profaning the temple or promoting a dangerous heresy. Their defense was really clever. First, they just deny it, saying, hey, we're law-abiding Jews just like you. But then came the bigger, bolder claim, that Christianity wasn't some dangerous new sect, but was actually the true fulfillment of Judaism itself.
And the Roman officials, well, they were often caught right in the middle of all this. You never really knew what you were going to get. Sometimes they'd crack down hard just to keep the peace, but other times they'd kind of shrug and say, look, this is an internal religious squabble between Jews. It's not a crime against Rome, so it's not our problem.
So the absolutely crucial point here is how the early Christians responded to all of this. They did not back down. This quote from the Apostle Paul just says it all, doesn't it? They saw suffering, prison, and even death as just part of the mission.
And this is where their strategy gets really brilliant. Instead of being silenced by all this opposition, they flipped it. They turned it into an opportunity. Every arrest, every trial became a brand new stage to share their message. They turned every courtroom into a pulpit.
But as dangerous as all those external threats were, you could argue that the bigger threat wasn't coming from the outside at all. It was brewing from within, a deep internal division that threatened to tear the whole movement apart. And it all boiled down to this one huge movement-defining question. As more and more non-Jews or Gentiles started to join, they had to ask, what is this thing we're building? To be a follower of Jesus, do you have to become a Jew first? So you basically had two camps with two completely different visions for the future. On one side, you had people insisting, look, this is a Jewish institution. If you're a Gentile and you want in, you have to get circumcised and follow all of Jewish law, period. But the other side was arguing, no, this is something new. This is a community where Jews and Gentiles are united as equals, no strings attached.
This was a full-blown existential crisis. And honestly, the way they handled this would decide everything about the future of the movement. The answer didn't come from some simple committee vote. It unfolded through this series of really key moments that they saw as divine guidance.
So let's walk through how they got there. First, you have this pivotal moment where the Apostle Peter has a vision. The takeaway is huge. The old lines between clean and unclean people are gone. Then you get what they saw as this divine thumbs up, where the Holy Spirit shows up among uncircumcised Gentiles. And all of that leads to the big one, the Jerusalem Council, where leaders get together to settle this once and for all.
And what they decided at that council was a total game changer. The big headline? Circumcision was not required for Gentiles. Huge. But to keep the peace and make sure that Jewish and Gentile believers could actually share a meal together, they came up with a compromise. They asked the Gentiles to respect a few key Jewish customs around food and morality. It was a practical way for two very different cultures to become one community.
So, okay, they survived the outside attacks, and they solved the internal identity crisis. What was the secret sauce? What did the actual nuts and bolts of this movement look like that allowed it to grow so fast?
Well, when you look at the book of Acts, it really boils down to 4 core activities: learning from the apostles' teaching, having deep, genuine fellowship, sharing meals together, which was a huge deal, and prayer. That was the simple, powerful foundation they built everything on.
And building those communities took time. This wasn't about missionaries doing quick whistle-stop tours. No, a key part of their strategy was depth over breadth. I mean, think about it. The Apostle Paul stayed in the city of Ephesus for 3 years. This was a deliberate strategy. It was about investing in people, raising up local leaders, and planting roots so deep that the community could thrive long after he was gone.
And all of this really brings us to a final, thought-provoking question for today. The struggle of the early church to bring in Gentiles while still honoring its Jewish roots. That raises a timeless question, doesn't it? It's a challenge that so many groups still face. How do you honor your history and your traditions while also throwing the doors wide open with radical inclusion? It's a tough balance to strike, and definitely something worth thinking about.